Thank you, Alistair. From a young age, I've always been very active, enjoying a wide range of sports and outdoor pursuits. And amongst these was climbing, whether it was trekking up Mount Kenya, as shown here, or scaling peaks in the Alps. But this adventurous lifestyle was to be greatly challenged when, in August 2004, I fell 80 foot from a cliff in South Wales and sustained a spinal cord injury. It was whilst recovering at Stoke Mandeville Hospital and learning to adapt to life in a wheelchair that my father, Mike, hand up please, posed my next challenge to ascend Kilimanjaro, a mountain he himself had been up 6 times previously. So we utilised his knowledge of the terrain to set about finding some sort of piece of equipment that would allow me to negotiate it. This search took us to Boston, Massachusetts, where we met the amazing Mike Augsburger, who knocked together state-of-the-art, hand-cranked, off-road cycles in an old shed at the back of his house. I test rode one and immediately knew that it was perfect, so I bought it. Back in the UK, training began in earnest, and it was quickly apparent that this bike was capable of negotiating just about anything, albeit very slowly. But that was so long as there was traction. Up the top of Kilimanjaro on the scree slopes, there would be no traction, however. It would be a bit like cycling on sand. So my next stop was to Arizona, where I met the remarkable, the very fit, very proactive Daryl Kubats. The cinder slopes near his house were almost identical to what we'd find on Kilimanjaro, and he thought he'd found a method of climbing them using a buggy and a pulley system. Unfortunately, all that way, and it didn't really work. So, back in the UK again, a local engineer knocked me up another system using a trolley with wheels on the bottom that ran over sections of ladder that could be laid over the top of the scree. And you can see he's chasing me up it with one of his metal sticks at the back there. Very kind. But that didn't work either. Neither the metal stick nor the trolley. So I stuck with the ladders, but rather than use the trolley, I'd cycle over them. And this would also be useful lower in the mountain, where I could use them to overcome other obstacles, such as boulders and things like that. Having assembled all the kit and equipment, it was off to the Brecon Beacons every other weekend to train. Here you can see the most important piece of equipment we took along, the 6 foot 7 inch Tim Turner on the left there. Very useful indeed. Then in March, Dal Kubat, who I'd visited in Arizona, came over to the UK to conduct some joint training with me. We were planning to do it as a joint expedition, but due to sort of a few other circumstances, he had to go and attempt his ascent a few months after me. And unfortunately, he had to come down with pulmonary edema. But he has been back since and reached the summit, which is very good news. The final crew was kept relatively small. There's my father behind the camera here, Debbie on the right, physiotherapist, Johnny and Tim, the ladder crew, and then myself. Anyone else that we'd need would be hired out there in the way of porters. And so it was, in March 2006, 2 years after falling off a cliff in South Wales. The kit was set, the team was set, we'd planned and trained meticulously, and we were off. The first couple of days on the lower mountain were fairly straightforward, with good tracks and lots of local support. But unfortunately, as we got higher up, as you can see here, the path deteriorated a bit. And this is where the ladders really came into their own to help me negotiate large rock steps, as you can see here, or boulders that lay strewn on the path. Debbie would remain with me, and Tim and Johnny would scout ahead with a couple of porters and lay ladders wherever they could see there's an obstacle. Dad, of course, was behind the camera. Also, he'd use his Sunto watch to let me know every 10 meters of height gained, which wore a bit thin after about 20 meters or so. the ascent was possible really due to the unique combination of this remarkable bike, which on its own could negotiate just about anything, the specially designed ladders, and the carefully selected team. It was this unique combination that allowed us to ascend slowly up and up. Obviously, the chief guide here and his team of porters were very much part of the success of the expedition as well. Every day, it soon became apparent that the porters, as well as scuttling ahead of us with huge loads, they were bending down, clearing the path of rocks as well without being asked. Very, very sweet of them. The really hard work began, however, when we hit the bottom of the giant 1,000-metre scree at around 4,600 metres. From here on up, a continuous line of ladders would have to be laid all the way to the top, and I'd cycle on over them, keeping my rear wheel, which was the drive wheel, on the centre, where, as you can see, an aluminium strip had been welded with this yellow high-grip tape placed over it. And in this way, we were able to continue very, very slowly up and up. Until, that is, we hit the the giant rock band. As you can see here, there's a band of huge boulders at the top of the mountain, at the top of the scree, and to my utter disappointment, I had to be carried over them. We pretty much knew this would be the scenario before we set off, because there just wasn't a path that we could negotiate the bike through the 200-metre stretch. And then we popped out on top of Africa. This is Gilman's Point at around 5,600 metres, and it was to be our final destination. It's around 300 metres below the actual summit, Uhuru, but we picked it as the spot to which I could negotiate the handbike successfully. And the reward was the descent, 5,000 metres downhilling. Pretty good fun. Thank you.